illness, most popular common illness after heart disease, something very little known. And it's rising particularly amongst youngsters. And it's statistically 1 in every 4 people suffer mental illness once every year. And those that are aged 25 plus are most likely out of the age group to suffer from a major mental illness in some time of their lives. We find that those people who are young are those whose rates of suicide, for example, are increasing more and more. And it's something you cannot hide. It's there, and it's not a problem which is confined to a certain cultural group or ethnic group or any religious group. It's across the board. And from our perspective, we're discussing how it affects everybody, in particular our own communities, our own women, our own youngsters, our own children, our own elders, for example. And there's a misunderstanding amongst Muslim circles that if somebody suffers depression, that there is something lacking spiritually in them, i.e. that they have a less iman, or they are not relying on following the Sharia or the Quran or the Sunnah as much as they should, i.e. a judgment on their spirituality, which is incorrect. Although the Quran says, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub," that indeed with the dhikr of Allah do the hearts feel tranquility. This does not mean that if a person suffers from depression, that they are not trying, or they are not close to the Quran, or they are lacking in their iman deliberately, purposefully. Depression is a multidisciplinary problem, and its solution lies definitely in religion, in Islam, in the Quran. There is a spiritual aspect that Islam has to offer, but that is one strand of a coping mechanism which will help a person. And statistically it's found that people of faith, and our faith has such a beautiful focus on this area, that a Muslim is more likely to be cured from their depression from an Islamic perspective than someone who has no faith. This is a statistic. So the stronger iman, the stronger faith you have, the more likely you are to deal with your problems. However, the first point of call is to understand that depression is an illness which definitely should be confronted through a spiritual aspect, to give somebody direction in life. But also, it does require counseling, sometimes therapy, through trained therapists, a doctor, psychologists, because depression has many different causes. Once the symptoms of depression are seen, we will discuss them, that the causes me and you will never know. And these could be some type of trauma in somebody's life. It could be a sexual trauma in childhood, child abuse, for example. It could be domestic violence. It could be a mental trauma. And this plays out during the cycle of a person's life without anybody realizing. And it requires trained psychologists to deal with this person. And this is so important to know, because sometimes even our ulama, our scholars, who have no understanding of depression, they confine depression to a spiritual problem only. For example, it's a spiritual issue, and the reading of the Quran and praying and leave it at that. It's actually something that needs to be treated just as you see a doctor for a physical ailment. So this is the first thing to know about depression, that it must be dealt in the same way as a physical problem. The Quran talks openly about anguish, about anxiety, about sadness, very, very openly. And the first point I want to make is how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his life was displayed to us through the Quran, through the Seerah. We find verses in the Quran which tell us in deep detail, if we look at the words used, how Rasulullah was afflicted with a type of anxiety that would cause a normal person to suffer an expression, a state of mind which would probably cause them to die. But he was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was able to deal with this type of anxiety, or you could say this type of near depression. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses to Rasulullah when he was 40, and there was a period of time when he never received these revelations, and he felt despair, and people around him would name call him, would ridicule him, would call him a poet, call him a magician, and someone who was frankly mad, someone who had some sort of mental issue, that he was delusional, he would see things, and this is what people think of people who have a mental illness. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognized this obviously and said in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. Allah says that we indeed know the pain, يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ, the pain that is in your heart because of what they are saying. Allah didn't say to him, didn't admonish Rasulullah for having this pain, this anxiety in his heart, but Allah recognized it. So much so that in Surah Al-Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says such a powerful ayah, فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ أَلَّا يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. And you look at the translation of this ayah, that perhaps, that the anguish that you are suffering, بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ, is so much so that it's on the point of killing you. أَلَّا يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. Because of your worry that these people aren't coming to Islam. That this anguish was on the point of taking Rasulullah to an extreme point of anxiety. Bakha'a is being at a state of extremity in one's life, to the point of death. And when we look at the story of Musa alayhi salam, when the basket was returned to his mother, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this event as فَرَدَدْنَاهُ إِلَىٰ أُمِّهِ كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنُهَا وَلَا تَحْزَنْ. And we returned him to his mother so that she could be comforted, so he could be the coldness of her eye, the apple of her eye, وَلَا تَحْزَنْ, and so that her sadness was taken away from her. So, although the Quran, when you read the Quran, you hear an authorial voice, the majestic voice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the beginning of surah. For example, Allahu Rabbus Samawati wal Ard. He is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Rabbul Arshil Azim. But at the same time, there is this voice of compassion, of loving, of understanding human frailty, of anguish, of arguably depression. In Surah Yusuf, for example, we have the incident of Yaqub alayhi salam, who loved his son dearly. And when Yusuf was parted from him, his brothers played a trick. They got rid of him, and he was away from his father, and his father was told that his son was actually dead when he wasn't. Yaqub alayhi salam cried from that day onwards. For 15 years he cried, and in the Quran it says, وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ, that he cried so much that he became blind. His eyes whitened. Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to Yaqub alayhi salam You're a prophet of Allah. You are the leader of the Ummah. And you're crying like this for 15 years. Stop crying? No. It's documented in the Quran for us to read of his huzn. And what did he say? In fact, his children would say to him, so many years have passed by and you're still crying for your son. You're blabbering on regarding your son. And he said, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. My sadness and my complaints I share with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which is a reference to the fact that your ailment, your sadness in life is something that you should communicate to Allah. And in Surah Maryam, when Mary was accused, and we have the ayah in the Quran, فَنَادَاهَا مِن تَحْتِهَا أَلَّا تَحْزَنِي, that a voice appeared and said to her, don't be sad, be comforted. And in the Quran we have another ayah again when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Abu Bakr felt for his life because they were migrating to Medina. They stopped by at a cave, Ghar Hira, and there was a very real chance they'd be discovered and obviously killed. And the verse was revealed where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to Abu Bakr, إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. When Rasulullah said to him that لا تحزن, don't be sad. Now the word huzn means sadness. Don't be sad, don't be anguished. إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَنَا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. Similarly, the Quran is dotted with verses in the Quran which openly talk about anxiety, anguish, sadness. It's something which is real. We've talked about how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his anguish was described as so much so that it could have taken him to the verge, to the point of death. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ. Allah says in terms of ourselves, and one reminder is when you read these verses, please understand the Quran is a universal message. If a verse is revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it has a general implication and message for ourselves. We often think that the Quran is talking to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and it is. But the underlying message is for humanity. Allah loved Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, no doubt. But the message was also a message of love for ourselves. If you were to read, for example, Surah Al-Duha, it aims at the soul and for those people who suffer from depression. Allah says in the very beginning, the contrast between sadness and darkness, sadness and happiness. How do we know? Because Allah says, وَالضُّحَى, the morning light. What does light symbolize? Hope. وَاللَّيْلِ, and the night, إِذَا سَجَى, when it covers the day. Why did Allah mention light and darkness? Because Allah is referring to the soul, because the soul suffers from these two extremities. Allah says that ease will be followed by hardship, and hardship will be followed by ease. There's dark days, and there are days of hope. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And how do we know? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this hope straight away after talking about natural phenomena. And there's a deliberate literary device in the Quran to refer to imagery, nature, to draw your attention to lights, to the night. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Allah will never abandon you, and Allah does not hate you. Now this is a general message. It was for Rasulullah, but when you read the Quran, it refers to you when you're in a state of despair and sadness, this is Allah talking to you. That Allah doesn't hate you, whatever situation you're in. ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى. Some authors, some mufassirs, translators have translated this as saying that the hereafter is better than this world. And that's one valid translation. But another translation, for example, done by Abdul Halim recently, is that it's referring back to the verses before, that have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the future is much more better than the past. Have hope and do not despair that what's going to happen in life is better than what's happened before. Have patience. وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. And indeed your Lord will bestow upon you, will give you happiness, will give you hope, something to hold on to in life and make you smile. فَتَرْضَى. And you will be راضي, you will be happy, you will be satisfied. أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى. Referring to Rasulullah, were you not an orphan in life? فَآوَى. And he gave you shelter, he protected you. The general message for us is, in our lives, have we not had ups and downs in our lives and during our lows? And did we not find that there were highs as well? Should we not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His grace, His mercy and His love? Remember that during your dark days. وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. And when He found you poor, in a needy state, فَأَغْنَى. And He made you self-sufficient. How needy is it and humiliating for a human being to be dependent on somebody else for your financial needs, for your emotional needs, for your psychological needs. But فَأَغْنَى. But Allah will make you self-sufficient. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. Moving on to the next phase, Allah has talked about the state of being down and having ups in life, of being sad and reminding us that there will be brighter days. But then how do you channel that energy of negativity in your life? Do something with your life. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. As an example, when the orphan comes to you, فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. Do not repulse him, do not overpower him, i.e. do something for the orphan. And this reminds me of a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when someone asked him, what can I do in my life in terms of goodness? And he said, go out there and give sadaqah, give charity, and place your hand over the head of an orphan. Wipe your hand over the head of an orphan. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. Embrace the orphan. وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. And the person who comes to you asking for something, فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Don't repel him. This is channeling your energy, doing something constructive and positive in your life. Whatever's going on in your life, look above that and do something for others, for in that you will find solace, you will find comfort. What a beautiful surah of the Quran. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. And live your life where you extol, where you talk about the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout your life. This surah can be seen as a universal message for humanity, one that deals with depression. And we talked about depression, the topic of today's khutbah, that it's a very real sickness in our community, and how we have to understand and accept A, that exists, B, that Islam has something to offer to comfort, and C, that it's a sickness like any physical sickness and must be treated A, spiritually but also medically to trained psychologists and so on. But only when we accept that it exists in our communities, because our own children, our own youngsters, our own sisters, our own daughters, they're all subject to this. And over the years, mental illness has grown. and it's increasingly growing, and it affects our families and our communities. Therefore, it's something we should talk about. And if we look at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was his kindness and his compassion which dealt with people's sadnesses in their lives. And as communities, we must open our hearts, and I would say each masjid and each family member, each family household, and within ourselves, we should understand that when somebody's depressed, that our first duty is to talk to them and understand that never ever judge a person who has depression. The worst thing you can do to somebody who has depression is to blame them for their own ailments, for their own sickness, and to try to judge them by saying that they're spiritually weak. And you know, the greatest of people, if you look at the lives of the prophets, of Ayyub alayhi salam, of Yunus alayhi salam, look at their dua, for example, that they said, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. In the belly of the whale, Yunus cried out. And Ayyub alayhi salam said, وَأَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. I'm afflicted with sadness. وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And you are the most merciful. These are the Anbiya, and they were afflicted with these anguishes in their lives. And the greatest of people are afflicted with the greatest of calamities and trials and tribulation in their lives. And in fact, their ailments, their depression, their illness may well be a test for us. If you're a friend of somebody who suffers from something like this, it may well be your test. How do you deal with them? This is your test, and Allah will judge you according to your character towards other people. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ.